Come to order. Today, the committee is excited to meet 8 nominees. They will be Edward Forrest to be the Administrator of the General Services Administration, Charles Arrington to be a member of the Federal Labor Relations Authority, John Truong to be an Associate Judge on the D.C. Superior Court, Elena Sutenberg to be Associate Judge on the Superior Court, Stephen Ricard, also to be an Associate Judge on the D.C. Superior Court, William Kirk to be Inspector General of the Small Business Administration, Anthony D'Esposito to be the Inspector General of the Department of Labor, and last but not least, Platt Mooring to be Inspector General for the Department of Defense. The witnesses' written statements have been submitted for the record, and I ask unanimous consent to submit letters of support that have been received for the nominees. In the interest of time, I will forgo opening remarks, but I will recognize Ranking Member Peters at this time.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to each of our nominees, and congratulations on your nominations. I'd like to start with the nomination that we're not considering today. I'm glad that Paul Ingracia's nomination to lead the Office of Special Counsel has been withdrawn. The racist messages Mr. Ingracia reportedly sent in a private chat are absolutely disgusting. Mr. Ingracia has said that he is being smeared unfairly and that those messages lack context. But let's be clear, there's no context that makes the use of racial slurs okay. And even without these messages, we also have hundreds of racist, sexist, anti-Semitic statements by Mr. Ingracia that he has made publicly in his short career. His clear pattern of bigoted and inflammatory rhetoric, along with his complete lack of any relevant experience, is wholly disqualifying. Paul Ingracia should have never been nominated for such a critical oversight role, but his insistence, I think, just exemplifies the Trump administration's outright contempt for independent oversight. Since taking office, this administration has attacked every key institution charged with rooting out government waste, fraud, and abuse. In January, President Trump illegally fired 18 inspectors general without any explanation to Congress and dismissed another IG last week, again, without legally required justification. Last month, the administration withheld funding for the Inspector General community, literally shutting down online portals for whistleblowers to report corruption, fraud, or wasteful spending. When Congress pushed back, a spokesman for the Office of Management and Budget did not have a good answer. The president has fired top officials at the Office of Special Counsel and the Merit Systems Protection Board, agency charged with protecting whistleblowers who expose waste, fraud, and abuse. This administration has repeatedly attacked the Nonpartisan Government Accountability Office, just last month saying it should not exist. Government accountability should not exist, in the president's words. These are agencies that Congress created to hold the president and the executive branch accountable, to ensure that the federal government is indeed serving the American people and not the whims of a pocketbook of the president or his political cronies. To the 3 Inspector General nominees today, I am concerned about your ability to conduct effective oversight, given the president's attacks on IG independence. Congress D'Esposito, in particular, you have made no effort to address concerns that you are a partisan operative. You have even submitted an opening statement to this committee that includes a pledge to carry out the president's agenda as an Inspector General. This betrays a very deep misunderstanding of the role of what an IG actually is, to say nothing of the laundry list of misconduct allegations that has been made against you in your career. To the other nominees, I also have concerns and questions about the important roles you have been nominated for. Unfortunately, a hearing with 8 nominees and 5 minutes for questions severely limits members' abilities to get answers to important questions and to have meaningful exchanges, and it certainly limits public transparency into the committee's nomination process, which I'm sure was the intent of the chairman. Still, I want to thank all your nominees for being here today, and I look forward to hearing from each of you.
It's the practice of this committee to swear in witnesses. Will the nominees please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you will give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. It's the standard practice of the committee for the chairman to ask the nominees the following question. Do you agree without reservation to comply with any request or summons to appear and testify before any duly constituted committee of Congress if you are confirmed? Why don't we just go down the list, Mr. Forrest, Mr. Harrington, Mr. Tong, Sudenberg,
I do.
Ricard,
I do.
Kirk, D'Esposito, and Mooring.
I do.
Thank you. We will now have a round of 5-minute questions, and we will start with Senator Langford.
Thank you to all of you for being here and for going through this process. It is a long, arduous process with lots of paperwork and lots of questions that has actually led you to this moment. And then we're going to expeditiously work through this process on the hearing as well today. So a question for a few of you. Mr. Forrest, let me start with you on this. The GSA is exceptionally important to us in many ways in getting information details, but one of those deals with real property. The federal government owns way too much property, but it has been a challenge for us to be able to sell property off or to be able to make it available and to be able to get it off our books. With $38 trillion in total debt as a nation now, we've got to stop owning things we don't use. So what is your thoughts and your plans for how to be able to help through the real property disposition?
Senator Langford, thank you very, very much for the question. And I appreciate the question, and I actually think the career staff at GSA appreciates that question and the motivation behind it as well. I think as the committee is aware, the federal government controls through GSA about 8,800 properties, of which we own 1,500 properties. And I think the analysis for the proper footprint of the government extends also beyond what we own into what we lease as well. What's the right size, what's the right mission of the real estate for the government of today and the government of tomorrow and tomorrow's tomorrow? We have 350 million feet of real estate that we control. That's gargantuan. It probably makes us the biggest real estate owner. And GSA doesn't control all the federal real estate in that way. We have so many constituents of interest. We have return to work orders in place. And there's a tremendous amount of work to do in terms of looking at the stock of real estate, but also the condition of the real estate that we own. When we are a tenant in someone else's property and they're our landlord, we're very demanding in terms of the condition of the property, so it meets the needs on an ongoing basis. When we're the landlord and we own the property, I'd say we're somewhat deficient. Yeah. In the GSA annual report, we show $24 billion of deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance is a very gentle term for, I'll say, delinquent maintenance in that way, of which $6 billion is urgently needed, it says, over 1 to 2 years. I think we have to take whole stock of exactly what we own, the mission of each one of our constituent clients, and then to determine the appropriate way to move forward. I'll say one more thing, if I may. Yeah. GSA is the tip of the spear in federal real estate. We can't actually return to work all of our people into our building because about 25% of it has been deemed uninhabitable. Yeah. That's because we have deferred maintenance.
So we've got to get that off the roll. And I would tell you one of the areas I've worked on for years is dealing with areas like our border facilities. The CBP owns some of those border facilities. GSA owns some of those. The GSA ones are not being well maintained, and sometimes they're not designed well on it, so we're not getting the cooperation we need in some areas. So that'll be one of the areas I will come back to you later to be able to figure out how do we actually manage that in the days ahead. And so I appreciate your engagement on this. For the IGs that are here, thanks for stepping up. Thankless, difficult job to say the least. You're selected by the president, you're confirmed by the Congress, but you're the eyes and ears for the American people in each of these agencies, and there is an expectation you work independently because the American taxpayer expects somebody to be able to be in the agency, to be able to look around, to give recommendations how to be more efficient, where there's not only inefficiency, but illegal activity or inappropriate activity. So there is an expectation you work for the American people to be effective in those roles. So thanks for stepping up to be able to do that. I really do appreciate you taking on that task on it. For the folks that are in the court, they're stepping in for the DC court. Mr. Trong, you are one of the few people on a planet with 6 billion people that was nominated by President Trump, nominated then by President Biden, and now you're here a third time for a third nomination from President Trump. I bet there's not many people on this planet that's been nominated 3 times and twice by Trump and once by Biden on that. So you've been in this committee before, and you know full well what I'm going to ask you because I've asked you before on it. How are you going to run your court in such a way that people get faster access to justice? We've got 12 openings that are there in the court. There's an enormous backlog in the D.C. court. People expect justice, but they also expect when they get to court, they're going to actually have their day in court and not have an attorney ask for a continuance, and they never actually get their day in court. So how are you going to run your court in such a way that people get justice?
Senator, your question crystallizes the issues, 2 critical issues confronting Superior Court. That is the backlog, which then affects how people get access to justice. If I were to be fortunate enough to be confirmed,
Finally.
I will make sure that I am prepared every day to rule on the cases in front of me. I would make sure that I communicate effectively to the parties, litigants appearing before me. And one of those communications would be in the form of a standing orders to articulate the expectations to the parties that when they appear for a hearing, for a case status, or for a trial, that they are prepared to go. And so those expectations would be set forth clearly and in advance. So I believe that is one of the tools that I tend to use in order to make sure that cases are moved quickly so that people who appear before me have a day in court.
Great, thank you. Thank you to all of your families that are here as well and those that are watching, and thanks for going through this. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Senator Peters.
Mr. Forrest, as we discussed yesterday, and it was good spending time with you in the office yesterday, but as we were talking about yesterday, GSA recently confirmed with my staff that the agency plans to move forward with disposing the Hart Doyle NOA property in Battle Creek, Michigan. More than 1,200 Michiganders work at this facilities. It's a critical national defense and security installation, working with the Defense Logistics Agency as well as the Federal Protective Service. For the record, we talked about this yesterday, but for the record, will you ensure that GSA provides the resources to keep all of these critical national defense and security jobs in Battle Creek?
So Senator Peters, by the way, thank you for our time yesterday, and thank you for the question. And in my time yesterday with you and Senator Hassan and Senator Kim, one common theme that came across is for me and for the agency to be good listeners and to be constituent seekers and making sure that we take in all the available information and input from those stakeholders and those stakeholders that have something to bring forward to the table and make sure we come to an agreed decision on each of these. You know, there's the mathematics behind the real estate issue, and there's getting to the right place on the real estate issue. And what I can commit to you is the agency will work feverishly with you and other constituents to make sure we get to the proper decision and we all understand the basis of those decisions.
So your commitment of, if confirmed, you will sit down with my team and we will and make sure that the folks in those facilities know that this is a thoughtful decision and one that is something that is necessary?
You have my 100% commitment, sir.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Forrest, when we met yesterday, you also said that the GSA has a unique procurement responsibility because a stamp of approval of GSA signals government-wide acceptance, and I certainly agree with this, which is why I'm concerned with GSA's recent procurement of Elon Musk XAI chatbot, Grok. This deal occurred, or Gronk, excuse me, this deal occurred following reports that Grok had produced racist and anti-Semitic content widely across Musk's social media platform. Do you share my concerns that the procurement of this AI system, which has actively produced anti-Semitic and racist conduct, is that something that concerns you?
So, sir, I have not been a part of the decision to bring in any of these particular AI
I'm not asking about
technologies.
your decision. Are you concerned about it?
To the extent that it's, as you describe, it would concern me, and I'd like to learn more, sir.
So what kind of signal do you think that sends to the country, that that's what we have procured?
If that's in fact what we have, then that's not, I think, the signal we would necessarily want to send to the country. No, sir.
So if confirmed, would you commit to pausing the use of that system until we receive documentation about the details of the procurement, including whether the GSA actually performed a comprehensive risk assessment prior to acquiring?
I think my commitment to you is I will meet with the team and I'll understand the process used in selecting them and I'll make sure that we have all the facts. And if there was incompleteness to the process, that we'll rectify that.
Okay. And you stand by that you are concerned about it and you will look at this.
If you're concerned, it's a concern I would share, sir.
But it seems to be a general concern, anti-Semitic discussions
sir.
and others.
Yes,
It
sir,
should be a
there's
concern to not just me.
No ambiguity about that.
Great, thank you. President Trump violated the Inspector General Act when he fired 19 inspectors general, the most recent just over a week ago, without submitting to Congress the required 30-day notification and some sort of substantive rationale. I know that's a high bar for the president. You have to have a rationale for what you do. But Mr. Mooring, yes or no, do you acknowledge that the president violated the requirements of the IG Act?
That matter is currently under litigation.
It's just a yes or no question. Do you think it violated?
I can't answer that question, Senator.
You can't answer. A pretty straightforward requirement. And as an IG, if you're nominated to be an IG, a pretty straightforward requirement you're not going to be able to make decisions on? Are you going to wait to see what the president tells you, or how are you going to make those kinds of decisions?
I'm going to make independent decisions based on my training and experience.
So reading something straightforward that you're required a 30-day notification with substantive rationale, that's not straightforward enough? Well, what else would you need to be able to make that decision?
It is a straightforward question, but the answer is not straightforward. The Solicitor General took the position that the president was within his rights to take the actions that he did.
So we know the judge voted or ruled that he did violate the IG Act. We're just a question of back pay right now. Mr. D'Esposito, can you answer our question, yes or no?
I believe that it's under review by the Supreme Court.
Okay.
And that as of right now, none of the inspector generals will force back to their job, so they believe President Trump made the correct decision.
Okay. Well, you're following the talk. You said you want to faithfully execute the president's agenda, so you're showing us that. Mr. Kirk?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. As my colleagues have mentioned here, the matter is pending. Apologies. Thank you, Senator, for the question. As my colleagues here mentioned, the matter is pending litigation, and as such, I don't think it lends itself to a yes or no answer.
You will all be very effective in moving the president's agenda as an IG, as an inspector general, but clearly we know what you're about. Not one of you can give me a straight answer acknowledging this very, very basic fact. Not even the president denies that he didn't send notice to the Congress. So it's clear. I don't think any of the, Mr. What, a few more seconds? It's clear that you folks don't understand the role of an IG, and that basically disqualifies you.
You know, I think the sarcasm towards the witnesses is uncalled for. I mean, you're asking them to make a decision on the Supreme Court. It's a complicated decision. A lot of the decisions on hiring and firing have come down on the president's side. I mean, frankly, these are open-ended questions. To say that you've concluded and you're smart of the Supreme Court, you're welcome to say that. But to put people on the spot and say, oh, you have no opinion, you're just going to do whatever you want. Well, you know, these are very complicated decisions, and I don't think any of us really know exactly how the Supreme Court's going to rule on this. So I don't like the sarcasm.
Mr. Chairman, this is not before the Supreme Court. That is not even true. Let's at least have facts, Mr. Chairman. It is not before the Supreme Court. Are we just making up facts as we go along
Senator Moreno.
Oh, my God.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we talked a little bit this morning about text messages. I thought that was interesting because I've never seen a witness who wasn't here question. But I thought in the spirit of text messages, we should read some. It talks about a text message that was sent out. It says, if you guys die before me, I will go to their funerals to piss on their graves, send them out awash in something. And then talks about how they want the Jennifer Gilbert's children to die in front of her so she can feel pain. That is the candidate for Attorney General from the state of Virginia. Would you, Senator Peters, condemn that text message, asking their children to die in front of their parents and he can go to their funeral and piss on their graves?
I don't believe I'm a witness here today. Thank you,
Okay,
Senator.
so just want to point out for the record that the bar is so low that you can't condemn somebody wanting political violence. Okay, so let's move on. So to Mr. Kirk, Mr. D'Esposito, Mr. Mooring, when you make decisions to investigate issues, do you go on X, read a post, and then make a decision based on that? Do you like read Newsweek and say, oh my God, this article says that? Or do you, start with you, Mr. Kirk, do you actually perform investigations?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. The role of the Inspector General is to work with facts. And
So what if you read an article on Facebook? That's not enough?
Certainly not enough, no.
How about if Manu Raju asks you a question in the hallway on the way out? Is that enough to make a decision?
Pardon me?
If a CNN reporter asks you a question on the way out, is that enough just to make a decision? My point is, can you walk us through what you actually do to investigate these matters?
Sure. Inspector General's offices have significant numbers of staff of investigators, auditors, and their role is to collect the information from the agency to be able to make a decision based upon
Does that
criteria.
take 5 minutes, 6 minutes? How long does that take?
It takes months.
Months. Okay. So not 3 minutes in questioning. Mr. Disposito, anything different?
I agree, and I spent my adult career as an investigator in the New York City Police Department, and never once, and I worked for a few different mayors, definitely I don't agree with their political ideologies, but never once did I start an investigation, conduct an investigation, or make an arrest based on someone's political ideologies.
Because you follow the law. That's your job, right?
Correct. I lived the oath that I took and swore, and that badge that I wore on my chest.
And you're going to find the facts no matter where they take you to make certain that you do your job that you're sworn to do, correct?
Absolutely. Exhaust every lead necessary.
Mr. Moring, how about you? I mean, obviously, the Department of War is a huge agency, and you're going to be charged with a big responsibility. You're going to study these things thoroughly, make sure that only look at facts, not hyperbole or innuendo. Is that correct?
That is correct, Senator. At the department, sources of investigation come from many places. Can come from senators, congressmen, the hotline, whistleblower complaints. There are procedures that are already in place in writing at the department which guide the initiation of investigations.
And you've sworn to uphold the Constitution and the law and to follow it no matter where it goes, correct?
Yes, I do, Senator.
Okay. To the judges, D.C. obviously is a lot going on here, and I assume the same standard holds for the three of you, that you'll follow the law, you'll interpret the Constitution as written?
Yes, Senator.
Yes, Senator.
Senator.
All right, perfect. And Mr. Forrest, I will actually give back time and just give you one piece of advice. Sell, baby, sell. With that, I'll turn it back over to the chairman.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Slotkin.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you for being here. Mr. I'm sorry, it's Mooring Platt. Sorry, I know your first name. Mr. Moore, thank you. Can you tell me, as the Department of Defense Inspector General, the position you're nominated for, you just went through that you'd uphold the U.S. Constitution, you would swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States, correct?
Yes, Senator.
And to uphold the laws of the United States. You're a lawyer, but IGs don't have to be lawyers, but both as an IG, but as a personal, as a lawyer, uphold the laws of the United States.
Yes, Senator.
So I'm concerned about, in September, the president issued an executive order tasking the Department of Justice to come up with a list of domestic terrorist organizations. He gave a very broad definition of what domestic terrorist organizations were, including descriptors like anti-Christian, different views on the family, religion, and morality. There's also reports that the Department of Defense is participating in an interagency weaponization working group made up of people from Department of Defense, from the CIA, Department of Justice, FBI, IRS, to go after the president's adversaries or enemies. As the Inspector General, you would be expected to, flag issues of law and investigate, deeply problematic issues. If a Department of Defense intelligence agency, like the NSA, DIA, the service intelligence agencies, Army Intel, were to target American citizens for their political views and collect on American citizens, is that in violation of the law?
Senator, my answer
Just press
to
your mic if you could. And maybe it's just over here. I can't.
It's lit
It's on.
green.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
Senator, the answer to your question has to do with the role of the Inspector General. I believe that the General Counsel at the department would be better able to address your question.
But this is just about law. I mean, I understand that the IG isn't the one making those legal announcements. But if you learned that intelligence agencies were wiretapping American citizens because of their political views, is that in violation of U.S. law?
The department IG only conducts oversight with regard to the department. And if your question is limited to the department, it's possible that the Inspector General may have a role in determining whether or not those agencies followed their own policies.
But just this is an issue of law. I mean, imagine, so let's say the National Security Agency, which does wiretaps, SIGINT, and I'm a former CIA officer, work with them all the time. Let's say the President of the United States tasked them to wiretap people who were attending the No Kings rally in Detroit, Michigan. Would that be legal for the intelligence community, the DoD intelligence community, to target American citizens for their political views?
Senator, I appreciate your sentiment and your concern, but it's not within the remit of the Inspector General.
But it
to
is,
make
it's
legal
law,
determinations.
right? I mean, I think in general, and I would hope this would be a bipartisan thing, that the idea that our intelligence community, of which I was a proud member, would be turned against American citizens because of their alleged political views is as fundamental to who we are as anything that I've seen come before this committee. And I want you to say, separate from what your remit would be, I want you to say publicly that we're not going to turn agencies like the CIA and the NSA and all these things against the American people. And you are the last line of defense. You are an IG, quite literally, overseeing conduct of the department. So if the intelligence agencies were asked to surveil American citizens, what would you do? Would you open an investigation at a minimum? Would you push back at all? Or is it just okay now? And God forbid, right? God forbid that this is just kind of the way we're going to be. The president says these are domestic terrorist organizations, and so we're now surveilling American citizens because of their views. I would hope my Republican colleagues would find that just as repugnant as me. I want to hear you say that you know that that is against not only the law, but our values.
Senator, I really appreciate your concern, and my sentiments are with you, but it's not my role to have personal opinions. I'm guided by the facts and the application of the law to the facts.
Well, I would just say it shouldn't be about your role. It should be about who we are as American citizens and what we do with our government when we turn it against people. And I yield back.
You know, I'm perfectly willing to answer the question. You're exactly right. You shouldn't be targeted for your religious beliefs, but it's a little easier for me. I'm my own agent. I can say what I want. I was elected and have it. They are going to be working for people, and it's a little harder for them to have a philosophical discussion with you. But I will tell you that your questions are hypothetical ones, but there is a real question. It was called Arctic Frost, and it was administered by the Biden administration, where 9 members of Congress were targeted with unconstitutional warrants. They were given subpoenas for their geolocation. According to the Carpenter case that was decided by the Supreme Court, your geolocation, you do have a ownership or a privacy interest in that. And they were illegally surveilled, 9 members of Congress. And if we're looking for bipartisan criticism of surveillance run amok, that's a place we might want to start. Senator Ernst.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I wholeheartedly agree. I want to thank all of you for being here today, and I'm just going to double down on my colleague from Oklahoma's sentiment when we're looking at GSA and making sure that we are divesting of all of the real estate that sits out there unused across the great United States. And I've spent a lot of time digging into that area. I chair the Senate DOGE caucus and have done my squeal work in the United States Senate for a number of years. So I do appreciate the senator from Oklahoma addressing that issue. But there is another issue that I'll continue on with, Mr. Forrest. And this is the area of waste that I've been exposing through the misuse of government credit cards. And in March, the federal government held about 4.6 million active purchase cards and accounts with $40 billion of spending on those cards last year. And in recent years, this has included over 11,000 separate transactions at vendors or merchants that are known as high-risk merchants. And those high-risk merchants include casinos, nightclubs, bars, places of that nature. And I can't really see where we can justify government credit cards being used in those types of establishments. So I don't know, what kind of government work is going on there. But Mr. Forrest, there are some definite improvements to GSA's Smart Pay program that I think we could implement. But what are you thinking we could do to make that situation better and monitor those cards better for our taxpayers?
Senator Ernst, thank you very much for the question, and thanks for your support on the disposition of federal real estate as well. We'll need your help. In terms of credit cards, in terms of other procurement activities that flow through the agency, there's a tremendous volume in dollars and numbers of transactions, and we have to do our best to make sure we have our arms around that data, and then how we scrub that data and how we look at what's appropriate and not what people want to do, but what people really need to do with those kinds of programs. And so I think this also falls into the category, Senator, of risk management, which is for all these activities, what are risks that we identify, which ones can we absorb, which ones can we mitigate, and which ones should we eliminate, and not be surprised because there's risks that hit us that we hadn't thought about. So your thoughts, your papers, meetings with all the members of the Senate, we are very open to taking suggestions and learning from this and applying that and providing updates as well on the progress we make towards that. It's not a one-and-done exercise. It's something we have to be robust about from the start, and we have to continue, maintain, and feed that process.
No, absolutely, and I look forward to working with you on that. We have also identified a number of former federal employees that have left government employment and take their credit cards with them, and they still use them. So I have introduced the Decline Act, and with that, we would ensure that charge cards are promptly deactivated once those employees are leaving government service. I've talked to other vendors in the credit card space, and they've talked about various trigger mechanisms where if you use those cards at those high-risk merchants, they would be declined on those sites. So, I mean, I think there are a number of easy ways that we can wrap our arms around this and make sure that taxpayer dollars aren't being spent for personnel that should not be spending those dollars and maybe inappropriately using those dollars. So, Mr. Mooring, in the minute that I have left, I've introduced the Cost Act that would require a price tag to be attached to all Pentagon R&D projects supported with taxpayer dollars, and it was included in the fiscal year 21 National Defense Authorization Act. So it is law now. However, despite that, the Pentagon has not implemented it. So they are not following the law. It makes no sense that the Pentagon is often ignoring the various threats that are posed out there by collaborating with or even financing researchers and institutions with links to China. And then they overclassify documents and not disclose that spending information to keep the taxpayers in the dark. So will the OIG make it a priority to ensure China is getting less access to Pentagon secrets and American citizens are getting more access?
Senator, if confirmed, the department's inspector general will exercise oversight over the policy implementation that you have incorporated into statute.
Thank you. And it is law, so we're very hopeful that we can follow up on that. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Blumenthal.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for your being here today and your commitment to public service. Mr. Desposito, the position of Inspector General should be above politics, should be insulated from politics, should be independent and objective, and that goes for all of the positions of Inspector General. So I'm eager to have your commitment that you will not be a candidate for Congress in the 4th Congressional District in the next election.
Right now, Senator, my focus is on being confirmed to serve as Inspector General of the United States Labor Department.
Well, I know that's your focus now as you sit here, but I'm asking for your commitment that you won't be a candidate.
Senator, with all due respect, as of today, my focus is to be confirmed as Inspector General of the U.S. Labor Department.
Well, here's why.
Having discussions about the future are questions that I can't answer.
Well, here's why I'm concerned about it. I have before me ads that were placed apparently on behalf of Desposito for Congress. That's your campaign committee, is it not?
It is.
And they were placed in, they are screenshots from your website on October 22nd, 2025. I'm holding them up. You can probably see them, and you're familiar with them, I'm sure. They're your website. They are for your congressional committee, which apparently is ongoing.
But my website is still active, but there hasn't been any fundraising or anything done with the committee.
And on September 19th, in the issue of Five Towns Jewish Times, you placed an ad, or your congressional committee did, on the occasion of Rosh Hashanah, wishing everyone Shana Tova. That ad was on behalf of your campaign committee, was it not?
I'll have to check with my campaign.
You'll have to check with your campaign? Well,
I
it's
didn't
here.
Okay.
How can you sit here and tell us that your focus is only on the IG position when you have an active campaign committee, you're placing ads, you're offering people lawn signs? That sounds like a campaign to me.
The campaign website that is still active is not being updated. It's not being used. There is no fundraising being done. There's not an active campaign being
When is the
conducted.
last contribution made to your campaign committee?
I would assume before the new year.
Before the new year?
I'm not certain, but I haven't done any active fundraising at all.
Well, but you are still accepting campaign contributions, are you not?
I am not accepting them.
You're turning them away?
I'm not aware of any campaign contributions that have
In
come in.
an interview in the in Newsday on October 8th, you were asked whether you would be a candidate, and you declined to say, correct?
Yes.
Let me ask you, there was an ethics committee investigation ongoing when you were defeated and left Congress last time. Was that ethics committee investigation concluded?
It was dismissed, yes.
It was dismissed?
Yes.
It was concluded and the complaints were dismissed?
Yes.
Let me ask Mr. Kirk. The SBA on its website had a special announcement which consisted in part of saying, and I'm holding it up, screenshot, Senate Democrats voted to block a clean federal funding bill, H.R. 5371, leading to a government shutdown that is preventing the U.S. Small Business Administration from serving America's 36 million small businesses. That is a clear violation of the Hatch Act and the anti-lobbying law. Would you agree?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. The Hatch Act is overseen by the Office of Special Counsel. It's not within the jurisdiction of the Office of the Inspector
Well, I'm
General.
asking you to investigate an illegality within the SBA. Will you commit to do it?
Thank you, Senator. I will commit to working with you and your staff to investigate concerns and allegations, and if I'm privileged to take on that role as the Inspector General, I will work with you and your staff.
Thank you.
Senator Moody.
Thank you, Senator Paul, and thank you for the nominees for being here today. Appreciate it. You know, oftentimes in these hearings, we have a lot of, I would call them drive-by insults and accusations with very little follow-up. And so I think it's important that we give nominees a chance to either explain a prior statement or give an opinion as to how they would proceed if they are in fact confirmed. And I want to start with Mr. Esposito. It was said by the ranking member that in your opening statement that you said that you would work to implement President Trump's agenda or something to that extent. So I actually went back and pulled your opening statement because that concerned me. An Inspector General very much ensures that the agency is working above board and in compliance with laws and ethics, et cetera, and that would be a primary responsibility. So I actually went back and looked at your opening statement, and you did, in fact, commend President Trump for making something clear, that government exists to serve the people, not itself. That is one of the reasons I agreed to come up here and be a senator. I'm one of the newest United States senators, and I believe wholly that people need to have a trust that their government, that D.C., is working in their interest, that it's not working to promote itself or the people within it. And, you know, I sat here shocked as I listened to another colleague say, will you make sure that this government doesn't turn on its own people? And I am thinking to myself, since I've been here as a United States senator, we've discovered under the last administration, we were surveilling United States senators and, in fact, turning agencies, I would submit in many instances unjustifiably so, against people who may not, who may have actually questioned our election integrity. As a people, we should have the right to ask questions. It's our government. It is our government. And so I commend you for saying and reaffirming that government exists to serve the people, not itself. And I saw within your opening statement that you said that you want to put that mission forward, that government exists to serve the people through the work of the Office of Inspector General. And just briefly, because I don't have a lot of time, would you like to comment on that and clarify what might have been accused against you?
I don't believe, first of all, Senator, thank you for the question. And it was one that was also referenced in our first hearing in the Help Committee. And that is, President Trump has a vision to reign in the golden age of the American worker. I don't believe that's partisan. I don't believe creating the fiercest, strongest military is partisan. I think that's all should be American. And that's what I believe in working hard.
As Inspector General, do you believe it is your job to ensure that the people working for that agency are indeed following the ethical guidelines and the law of the United States and certainly the agency?
Absolutely, and it's the same oath that I took when I was a New York City police detective. I take very seriously, as you know, did my grandfather who fought in World War II and my dad who actually fought in Vietnam.
Thank you. And I now want to turn to along that lines of making sure this government is working for the people. I commend this president, all of the people he's put in place to return this to a nation under a rule of law, indeed, the law of the people. The law of the United States is the people's law. And though we want to create all of these narratives around the United States and what is playing out on TV, what looks like, you know, cesspools of chaos, whether it's Portland or Chicago, as people are coming out and sometimes obstructing or attacking or assaulting federal law enforcement officers that are trying to comply with the people's law. It is as if they're giving the finger to the people's will. I commend the agencies for surging resources to restore law and order and indeed safety in our communities. But law enforcement officers can only do so much. And for our system to work, we have to have good judges that will follow the law and that will not, in some aim to either satisfy some personal bias or to achieve some radical agenda or partisan ends, ignore the law. We have to have judges in order to have security to take what is presented to them and then follow the law, and when appropriate, under the law, impose a sentence for a crime that is committed when there's a conviction. And real quick to our judges, our associate judges that are not nominated, will you commit to following the people's law and making sure that the judicial branch can be respected because you are judges applying the law as the people intended and not subverting the integrity of the judicial institution by implementing your own well? And I'll just go down the line. We'll start with you, with Mr. Trong. I do. And Ms. Suttonberg.
Yes, Senator.
And Mr. Rickard.
Yes, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hassan.
Thank you, Chair Paul, and thank you, Ranking Member Peters, for holding this important hearing. To all of the nominees, thank you for your willingness to serve. Congratulations to your families as well. And I'm going to start, I'll follow up where Senator Moody was going. It's a question I now ask in every hearing involving nominations. And it's a straightforward one. Representative Esposito, I've asked you this and other questions at your prior hearing, but I'd like you to please answer again today with the other nominees. So for Mr. Forrest, Mr. Arrington, Mr. Kirk, Mr. Mooring, and Representative Esposito, if directed by the President to take action that would break the law, would you follow the law or follow the President's directive? Mr. Mooring, we'll start with you.
Senator, I don't think I'd ever be put in that position.
Well, let's just be clear before everybody else says that. It's a simple answer. Will you follow the law if you are put in that position? Senator Peters referenced the decision about the illegal firings of the IGs that this president did. And I just want to be clear, because a number of you kind of hesitated and said it's under appeal. It's not. The court found that that was an illegal firing. There's nothing under appeal because the court also decided not to reinstate the IGs who were illegally fired because he concluded, or the judge concluded, that the president would then fire them under the legal process. So the only thing at issue is back pay. So that's an example of this president of the United States breaking the law. So if you're instructed to break the law by the president, will you follow the law or follow the president's directive? Mr. Mooring.
Senator, realizing that's a hypothetical, I will never do anything in my office, if confirmed, that is illegal or immoral.
So you will follow the law. I want a yes or no.
I will follow the law.
Now, Representative Esposito.
I believe President Trump is a man of integrity, and I don't believe that his or his administration would ever ask us to break or me to break the law.
So are you going to follow the law?
And I would always, as I've done in my career, follow the law.
Your answer defies the factual record, but Mr. Kirk, go ahead.
Thank you, Senator, for the question. I also believe I would not be asked that question or put in that position, but I can always commit to, as my colleagues have stated, to follow the law, the statutory obligations of the Inspector General, to abide by the law, to fulfill.
I appreciate that. Mr. Arrington?
Yes. Thank you, Senator, for the question. I, again, pose that it would be a hypothetical, but as a veteran, I have sworn an oath to the Constitution, and I would follow that no matter who told me to do an unlawful thing.
Again, Senator, as we spoke yesterday, I don't expect to be asked that, but I will take an oath of office like you, and I will follow that oath of office.
And let's just be clear, there's plenty on the factual record of this President of the United States not only breaking the law, but instructing other people to break the law. So you might want to brush up on that. Now, let me turn to the nominees for judicial seats. Mr. Trong, Ms. Suttonberg, and Mr. Rickard. Do you commit to applying the law fairly and independently without favor or bias, and to reject any attempts by outside parties to influence you and the decisions you make? We'll start with you, Mr. Trong.
Senator, if I have the privilege to be confirmed as a judge, I am duty-bound to follow the law and the precedents set by...
Just a yes or no, because I'm running out of time. Yes?
Yes.
Ms. Suttonberg? Yes.
Yes, Senator.
Thank you. Now, to Mr. Kirk, Representative Esposito, and Mr. Mooring. If confirmed, will you work in a transparent way to investigate conflicts of interest involving government officials? Again, yes or no, Mr. Kirk?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. I'm committed to follow.
I need a yes or no because I'm running out of time. Yes?
I will investigate conflicts of interest and appropriate matters.
And will you do it in a transparent way? Yes or no?
In a transparent way,
and
objective and independent.
Representative Esposito. Mr. Mooring.
Yes, I will, Senator.
And gentlemen, could we have a little bit of order on the dais, please? Thank you, the three of you, for your commitment. Recent reporting states that the President has 2 claims pending against the Department of Justice, in which he is asking the department, part of his government staffed with his hand-picked people, to approve a payment of $230 million in taxpayer money to him. Even the President himself recognizes how absurd and inappropriate this conflict of interest is. He stated, this is my quote, this is what President Trump said, "I'm the one that makes a decision, right? And you know, that decision would have to go across my desk, and it's awfully strange to make a decision where I'm paying myself." So if confirmed as an Inspector General, if the President tried to authorize payments of taxpayer money to himself from your agency, would you investigate that as a conflict of interest, Mr. Kirk?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. I would, as I had mentioned previously, under my statutory responsibility, investigate all allegations of violations of law,
And
conflict of interest.
do you consider the President of the United States directing an agency that reports to him or that he considers reporting to him to pay him money a potential conflict of interest or an actual conflict of interest?
I am not familiar with the facts of that matter. I am, as I said, committed
I asked you to respond to a quote. I'll move on to Congressman Desposito.
If confirmed, I will be an independent and an objective oversight through audits and investigations of the Department of Labor.
So if the President tried to authorize payments of taxpayer money to himself from your agency, would you investigate that as a conflict of interest, yes or no?
I would be an independent and objective oversight
Mr.
through
Moore,
audits
yes
and
or no?
investigations.
No, the Defense Department does not conduct oversight of the White House.
That is extraordinarily
Senator
disappointing.
Hawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to the nominees. Thank you all for being here. I want to start with you, Mr. Chung, Ms. Suttenberg, and Mr. Ricard. You've all been nominated, so they put you all right together, right in the middle. You've been nominated to the D.C. Superior Court. I just want to ask you a question or two about your judicial philosophy, and I want to start by referencing a picture that maybe will come up behind me. This was maybe a photo you've seen before. It's not a pleasant one. But it did occur right here in the district. This is Edward Korestein. Edward was 19 years old when this photo was taken. This is just from July of this year. He was a government employee at the time. This is in Logan Circle here in the district. He was out one evening, I think with his girlfriend, when he was attacked. He and his female friend both were attacked by a roving band of teenagers who left him in this condition, beat him pretty badly, as you can see. He was able to get his female friend into the car and safe, and then turned and confronted the whole band of them himself. And this is the condition he was left in. Looks pretty violent to me, but when the assailants were taken before the D.C. Superior Court, the relevant judge, Judge Kendra Briggs, who I'm sad to say was reported favorably out of this committee, though over my no vote, she gave the assailants 0 prison time. 0 prison time. And what she said was the purpose of sentencing is not punishment. That's a quote, not punishment. It is rehabilitation. And apparently she thinks that allowing people who do that kind of thing to 19-year-olds, allowing them to get off without any kind of punishment is rehabilitative. That is its own interesting question. But I want to ask you first, do you agree that the purpose of sentencing is not punishment, but rehabilitation? I'd like to hear from each of you on this. I think it's an important question. Mr. Trung, let's start with you.
Thank you, Senator. My approach to sentencing is to consider the pre-sentencing report of the defendants, the witness victim impact statement, the community impact statement, any recommendations from the prosecutors and the...
But what's the purpose of sentencing in your words? What's your philosophy?
My approach to sentencing is to consider all the facts, apply the law, and to impose sentence that reflects the seriousness of the crimes.
Well, do you think that punishment is an appropriate aspect of sentencing?
That is one factor to consider within the context of the approach to sentencing.
Do you agree with Judge Biggs that the purpose of sentencing is not punishment but rehabilitation?
Your Honor, Senator, I don't have...
That's fine. You can say Your Honor. It's all right. I'll answer that.
I appear in court so many times that I have the reflex of referring to those in the honorific title. Well, Senator, I don't have all the information that Judge Briggs had in front of her. So and I need to be circumspect in my response because judicial canons counsel that as a judicial nominee, I should refrain from commenting issues that may appear before me.
Well, I'm not asking you to comment on this case. This case is over. You're not going to have this case. I'm asking you about, and I'm not asking you about her. I'm asking you about you. I want to know what your judicial philosophy is. And my question is, would you agree that the purpose of sentencing is not punishment, but rehabilitation? That's a pretty stark, that framing is pretty stark. Not punishment, but rehabilitation. Do you think that's right?
Well, my sentencing philosophy is to impose a sentence that reflects the seriousness of the crimes and the imposed consequences that are deserved within the context of studying the facts and applying the law to the facts.
Okay, I wish you'd be a little less circumspect. Ms. Settenberg, go ahead.
Senator, I can't speak to that particular case given that, but I will say that I spent my career as a prosecutor fighting crime, and I'm certainly committed to ensuring accountability structures and judge both for juveniles and for adults. When it comes to sentencing, I think that there are important retribution, deterrence, incapacitation, rehabilitation. Given the severity of the crime, I think you have to look to what is going to serve the interest in any particular case, and there could be different goals that are depending on.
Let me ask you this: shouldn't keeping the public safe be a major goal of sentencing?
Yes.
Shouldn't keeping violent offenders off of our streets be a goal of sentencing?
I absolutely agree. There should be.
Okay, good. Mr. Ricard, what about you?
Yes, Senator, thank you. I would follow the law of the District of Columbia, which requires considering a number of factors, including the seriousness of the offense, imposing a sentence that reflects the seriousness of the offense and the criminal history of the offender, a sentence that provides sufficient deterrence, both specific deterrence to the individual offender and general deterrence to the community, and that the third factor does consider rehabilitation, but that's just one of the three factors that has to be considered.
And last question, Mr. Chairman, and do you agree that protecting the public and getting violent offenders off the streets is an important goal of sentencing?
Yes, I think that's the deterrence that I just mentioned. Specific deterrence is making sure that someone who's committed a violent crime and is likely to do so again would not do so.
Well, I'll have some more questions for those of the rest of you on the panel. I'm sure you're very disappointed I didn't get to ask you any. Congratulations again on your nomination.
Thank you. We've had some discussion, about the necessity for independence of particularly the inspector generals, obviously of judges, to be free of partisanship. And it is incredibly important, and I don't want to downplay that at all. But we also have to accept you at your word. If you say you're going to be impartial, we either believe you or we don't believe you. And if they choose not to believe you, that's one thing. But I think, your comments should be treated with respect. I'm a big fan of the Inspector General program, and I'll give you just one example of where we learned something incredibly important. It was from the Defense Inspector General. During COVID, it became aware that there's a lot of facts pointing towards that the virus may have come from a lab in Wuhan and not from a wet market, not from animals. But one of the biggest things we got was from a whistleblower, a lieutenant colonel, who came forward and he said, you know what? The lab that was close to the wet market there where people are saying it might have come from, they submitted a proposal to DARPA in 2018 called Diffuse, and it looked a lot like what the virus became. They were talking about creating a virus with a certain cleavage site to enter the cells, which was unusual in coronaviruses, and then lo and behold, the same people proposing that 2 years before didn't get the money. But then this research project was hidden. But people said it was a smoking gun and pointed heavily towards the lab in Wuhan. But we only heard about it through an inspector general. And so it's important that inspector general didn't look at it as, oh, I'm going to protect President Trump or I'm going to protect President Biden. It is the truth. So it is incredibly important. And I hope all of you will take that into account. It's the same with the judges. We've gone through 4 years of lawfare, where President Trump has been attacked repeatedly, where they've changed the law so they can go after him, where they've said, well, there was a statute of limitations on the claim of the one woman in New York. They just changed the statute of limitations. They took and bundled records complaints and bundled 30 of them and made them all into felonies. They did things with the law that ultimately were rebuked by the public. So it does take a lot of gall then to have them come forward and lecture us and lecture Republican nominees about how, you're going to be impartial. I want you to be, though. I don't want you to go back and say, oh, this is my time for retribution against the other side. I want you all to be bigger than that. There's probably very few in the Senate who are as ecumenical and as even-handed as I am. I haven't always been apologizing for the president. In fact, I'm one of the Republicans who has been unafraid to criticize the president on policy more than anybody else. But the thing is that we do expect that in our civil servants. And Mr. Moran, can you comment on how you would approach the job and as an impartial judge and as an inspector general?
Yes, Senator. My background is being a law clerk to a federal judge, where I had to give the judge my best independent legal advice. I worked for the Department of Justice as a trial lawyer investigating customs fraud, and my job there was to provide independent advice to the Attorney General with regard to those prosecutions. In my role as legal counsel to the General Counsel at the Department of Defense, again, my job was to give the best independent legal advice I could to benefit the department. In private practice, again, I had to give opinions to clients that they didn't want to hear. So I feel that this background, also my military background as a lieutenant colonel and having to work through the problems in Afghanistan, I have made a career of independent legal advice.
And I think people in the military, particularly with rising to that rank, have a long history in the military of trying to treat things objectively and not bring religion or politics into things. Now, Mr. D'Esposito, you have been a politician, so you've seen both sides of it. You've seen the barbs and the unfair accusations, and everybody on both sides has done that. Are you willing and able, and will you pledge not to be a politician, to be an inspector general and to evaluate things? I guess you said you were also a policeman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the question. I've spent most of my adult life in the public service world. I'm a 26-year member of the volunteer fire department back home, where I served as chief from 2009 to 2016. I was the incident commander during Hurricane Sandy, and my community was one of the hardest hit on the East Coast. And when we responded to the hundreds of thousands of calls during that time and during my time as a firefighter and chief, never once did political ideology come in place. I served 16 years in the New York City Police Department, some of it as a cop and then promoted to detective. I left the department, retired from the department with close to 700 arrests, over 50 medals for meritorious and excellent police duty. I dismantled gangs. I took hundreds of guns off the street. I removed poison from communities to make them safer, made arrests for bribery, and never once was it politically motivated. And then I came to Congress, and I was named one of the most bipartisan members of the 118th Congress.
I appreciate your service, and I take you at your word, and we will hopefully see good service from you that is objective.
Thank you.
With that concludes our hearing. Thank you all for coming today. The nominees have filed responses to biographical and financial questions. They have answered pre-hearing questions. They've also submitted opening statements, and everything has been reviewed by the Office of Government Ethics. Additionally, the committee has received letters of support for the nominees. All this will be made part of the record. So without objection, this information will be part of the hearing record, and with the exception of the nominees' financial data, which are on file in the committee. The hearing record will remain open until noon tomorrow, October 24th. The hearing is adjourned. Thank you all.